So from Western Australia up to Alaska. Next up, Nova Minerals and Christopher Gerteisen, who is the Executive Director and CEO for Nova Minerals, going to tell you about their Estelle Gold project. Welcome, Christopher. Over to you.
Thanks for having us today, Carrie. This is a great opportunity to be able to introduce your audience to the Estelle Gold project, our flagship operation in Alaska. The key takeaway for this presentation today is that we are on track to expand our current 2.5 million ounce resource out there at Estelle. So welcome to the Tintina Gold Province. This province has been one of the hottest belts for gold discoveries and production in the recent years. Over 200 million ounces of documented resources in the last couple of decades. This is the area where the historic gold rushes in Alaska took place, the Klondike and some of the Fairbanks and some of these other historical stories you've heard about in the past. Now this province is hosting typical intrusive related gold systems. Some to point out that have been very much in the news lately would be Kinrous's Fort Knox deposit there in Fairbanks, the Dublin Gulch deposit on the Yukon side, recently started production there, and also the Donlin Creek out to the west. That's the Barrick Nova Gold deposit, 40 million plus ounces. Pogo's Northern Star is there as well. So these are 10 million plus ounce districts, not uncommon in our neighborhood. The Estelle Gold project, we just sit on the southern end of that belt, and that's what we'll be zooming into today. Here we are. This is a regional map that shows you that we're 185 kilometers from the main city of Anchorage. Actually, just north of Anchorage, you see Wasilla and Willow. That's the where we start our winter snow road to access the site. But in addition, out at the site, we have a airstrip, and you can see that in the photo at the bottom. That's our core processing facilities, and one of our planes probably bringing people or freight in at that time. Zooming in to the actual claims, it's a 220 square kilometer claim block. What we're going to be talking about mainly today is right up to the north is the Korbel deposit. This is a very large intrusive related gold system. But in addition to that, the other red dots on the map there is we have 15 other known across our claims that are at various stages of advancement. Significantly, the RPM prospect to the south, where we have historical drilling as well of over 100 meters at a gram per ton, and the Shoeshine prospect there in the middle, where we have very, very high grade rock chips up to 113 grams per ton. You know, I spoke about the intrusive related gold system at Korbel, which is to the north, but also to the south. There's some major epithermal projects, a few million ounces in other projects to find there. Also to the east of us is a porphyry gold copper system. And so in addition to the intrusive related gold system, which we're focused on at Korbel right now, we also have epithermal and porphyry style mineralization all converging on our claims. So very exciting upside for the future of our exploration. This is a typical geology interpretation of what we're looking at with these intrusive related gold system. You have a pipe-like or a cylindrical small intrusive that comes up, and as it cools on the surface, you have a very brittle carapace right at the apex, and this is where you get sheeted vein formation. And so the typical mineralization that we see at Korbel in particular is sheeted veins associated with quartz and arsenopyrite. Here's some photos, very striking comparisons actually. On the you see the Estelle, our mineralization, these sheeted quartz veins, and then the other photos on the right-hand side are some of the other typical IRGS type deposits that I alluded to, Dublin Gulch and Fort Knox. Dead Ringer, exact same Cretaceous age intrusives, and it's all about these sheeted veins, millimeter to a few centimeters in size. And where you get the increased vein density is where you get much higher grades. And so, you know, we've intercepted in some of our drilling up to an ounce per ton, where the vein density is very pervasive. So where did we start? When we picked up the project, there had already been historic work done on the project, and this is the historical drilling. And some of these holes, you know, were drilled hundreds of meters in the half gram per ton range. Some of them much more, like one of these holes 100 meters at a gram. And so this is where we decided to focus our initial work. We started with some rock chips, which you can see there, which also highlighted those zones we need to focus on. The next step was to do ground geophysics, which was a very useful tool. Here's some magnetics, and this was very useful in terms
Oh dear, I lost you. That's Hey, Christopher, this is what happens when it's a virtual gold conference. I just lost you there for a moment.
Oh,
All good. So,
right.
so just go back onto this slide for me.
Which one?
That one, the one you were just on.
This one?
Yep.
Right.
So keep going.
Right. So this the Korbel area, the Korbel prospect was where we had historical drillings with very promising intercepts as well as exciting rock chips. And so we decided to do a program of ground, and this was very helpful with the magnetics here you see on your screen to map out some district scale structures where we could where you can see how the ore body might be offset. But most useful and perhaps the best targeting tool that we found was the IP geophysics, the IP chargeability. You can see there are some very distinct anomalies, and we call them target A, target B, target C, and target D. You can almost see a circular feature there with a very high IP core, and that's representing, and that is the intrusive that I alluded to and I showed earlier with that schematic geology. Those are the areas we're focused on. So mainly when we went out there, the next stage was drilling. We have our own RC rig out there, and we focused last year's drilling on targets A and targets B. And this is where we've defined the 2.5 million ounce inferred resource that we currently have. And this is a map of exactly that drilling. So those outlines.
Sorry, folks.
Where we drilled the RC, right? So that was last year's drilling. Here's a typical cross section through the deposit, and you can see on the right-hand side the section. The shorter holes are the RC drilling we did, and the longer holes, the diamond drilling. And you can see that with the RC drilling, we could only come up to about 100 meters, drill down to 100 meters where the samples started getting wet. But the diamond drilling can get much deeper, and you just see it's a sea of continuous mineralization. What we want to do in the next phase of drilling, which we're currently engaged in, is to go much deeper into that intrusive, and as well as get on that boundary between the blue unit and the white unit, because you find in these deposits a lot of the higher grades stick along that. So the next few slides we'll go through what the status of the current work is with our drilling program to date. On the left-hand side of the screen there, you'll see our 2.5 million ounce resource table. And so you can see right in the middle there at the 0.18 cutoff, we have 2.5 million ounces that we report. Some people ask, oh, why do you report at such a low? If you look at our peers in this style of deposit, those are the type of cutoffs that are very economic. In fact, Kinross's Fort Knox reports at a 0.1 cutoff, Dublin Gulch at a 0.15, because these are near surface, on the surface basically, open pit, bulk mineable, heap leachable deposits with a very low capex, very low opex. That type of cost structure allows very low grades to become very economic. And so that's why you get an average head grade of in the half gram per ounce range, 0.43 in our inferred resource that we've already reported. So what's the next step? Currently, this year, we've embarked on a major resource development drilling program, over 25,000 meters that we're planning halfway through that as we speak, with the assays and the results coming back lagging a little bit behind that. But this is the program where we're targeting infill drilling on targets A and target B. That's those red zones you see there. To date, this is the drilling that we've completed to date. Now, our initial objective was to have a resource released by mid-year this year. But due to the bottleneck of the assay with the virus restrictions and not being able to, 4 to 6 week turnaround time, we haven't been able to complete that entire 25,000 meter drilling program and get all the results back yet. So what we plan to do is release an interim preliminary resource here in August, September, which will include the target B area. And so what we want to do is update the market, how we're tracking, and be able to see how we're doing in that target B area, because that was a critical area for, we call that our starter pit, which is in a mining scenario in the future. That's where we plan to, to start any type of operation. Here are some of the sections of the results that were returned so far. To date, only 4 holes have been returned. But what you start to see is in some of these holes is that it's extending beyond the current resource model. The mineralization is with this deeper diamond drilling. And so the current resource is almost 200 million tons at about 0.4, 0.5. And what we intend to do this year is get into that 400 to 500 million ton range at half a gram per ton. And so because tons is the game here. Volume is king. Tons are king. And so if we can increase that tonnage.
Why is that, Christopher? I want to just interrupt you there and say, why is that key when you say tonnage is key?
Right. Because when you're talking about these low strip ratio from the surface, bulk mineable type deposits, the more ton, half a gram or 0.4, 0.3, for example, Kinross, their average head grade is 0.3, is economic. And so at these very low grades, it pays. And so it becomes a very large engineering exercise. And so everything you dig up, the strip ratio starts to approach zero, right? Everything you dig up basically is pay dirt. And that's why.
Just explain, because we've got a lot of people on watching today that won't understand the word strip ratio. Because there's a lot of newbies out there that are interested, but they just don't understand that.
Right. Okay. So in a typical, say, Archean style deposit in Australia, let's say you would have one structure or one fault or one vein that you would be following, and it's a tabular structure, perhaps steeply dipping. Well, to open pit mine that, you're removing a very large amount of waste just to extract that vein. Whereas in these, the geometry of these deposits aren't like that. They're more like a blimp, like a zeppelin, like a large blob, like an elliptical kind of football shaped thing, right? And so everything you dig up is basically pay dirt, has mineralized. So you can see in these drill holes here on this section that there's just hundreds of meters of continuous mineralization, right? So there's not one particular structure. It's a very large system, and it's that carapace on the that's surrounding that intrusive that I talked about earlier. Now, internal to this, you do have higher grade zones, of course. We're finding zones where we've intersected mineralization up to 1 ounce per ton, but more continuous zones of 1, 2 ounces or 1, 2 grams per ton, or even 5 grams per ton internal to that. And we'll start to define those zones as the drilling gets tighter. But for now, what we're trying to do is show the scale of this thing. It's really a behemoth, these intrusive related gold systems. And that's what we're seeing in this drilling we're doing now. And you can see that with the drilling, in addition to those other lines, there are holes that are results pending, but that increased data density will not only increase our resource to, like I said, double it, 5 million ounces this year is our target, but also prove it up into the measured and indicated categories. And what that'll allow us to do is then start our pre-feasibility and economic studies and further metallurgical studies on our path to production, which we're looking towards in the years to come. So, just to sum it up, what are we doing? We're drilling out 25,000 meters on blocks A and block B. We're going to be releasing a preliminary update on block B here in August, September. And then at the end of the year, we'll release the final resource where we intend to, reach our objectives of 5 million ounces. That table there on the bottom just shows all this work we're doing. We're decreasing that risk and increasing this value. And it's not just Korbel. It's also some of these other prospects, which we'll go into in the next few slides. So in terms of decreasing risk and increasing value, another very critical component of the Korbel deposit is the recovery. Now, recoveries that we've had just in early stage metallurgical test work have just been exceptional. 76% average recovery from just simple leach tests to start. This is in comparison to our peers, similar style deposits in the belt are producing mines at 55 to 60% recovery, and these are some of the most profitable mines in the world. So we're very encouraged by this metallurgical this recovery. And as we move forward and start more in-depth metallurgical studies and start to optimize our leach solutions and the like, that number can only go up. Another thing we're looking at in terms of metallurgy is ore sorting. Ore sorting technology has really come a long way. Our deposit with the distinct quartz veining and wall rock will be very amenable to ore sorting, where we may be able to upgrade our ore during processing by 10 to 20 times, right?
Wow.
So I discussed 25,000 meters, blocks A and blocks B, metallurgical studies, but we also have the outer line prospects. In fact, there's some consulting work going on this week to start mapping and taking rock chips and reconnaissance in some of the outer lying prospects. Either way, we're focused on a decision to mine by the 2023-2024 timeframe. And what we're talking about is Korbel, which you see in that lower right photo there with the 2 drill rigs running. Korbel will be the central, the center of operations, the startup of operations, the main processing area, where we feel there's easily 5-10 million ounces in its own right. But what we're doing as well is unlocking the district. So all these outer line prospects, developing a pipeline of ore sources to then feed into Korbel, into the central processing area in the years to come. And this is how you arrive at that 20-30 year mine life, which is so typical. In addition to what we're doing now at Korbel, which is just at Block A and Block B, that's pointed out there on the in the picture. There's also Block C and Block D, which are geophysical anomalies we've highlighted, and a number of other very promising prospects just in the Korbel Valley alone. U-Beauty, Cathedral there to the south, which we're building a drill pad there right now. So before winter sets in here in November, we'll be drilling some holes into Cathedral as well. We've had some very encouraging rock chips there in the past, and keeping an eye out for the news flow on that. Here's Cathedral, some historical work that we've done there. There's a channel sample there of over 30 meters across that face, which on average is over a gram. And you can see there on the geophysical image there on the bottom where Cathedral sits, how large that anomaly is even compared to Block A and Block B. So we're very excited about hitting that. This is the RPM prospect to the south. And as I said, we have a historical drill there, a drill hole there of over 120 meters at over a gram, 50 meters at about 1.8. And we're putting a drill pad out there as well right now. So we'll be drilling some additional 3 or 4 additional holes there before the winter sets in, and potentially come out with some kind of maiden inferred resource there as well before with the resource that will update in the final resource update in December. This is a map of just showing you the infrastructure and the proposed routes out to our area. To the east there, you can see the Estelle Gold project in the purple, in the purple area there. To the west, sorry, to the west, that purple area is Estelle. What we're looking at in terms of infrastructure is we've already signed an MOU with the Alaska Industrial Development and Export Authority, ADA as we call it here, and we're currently engaged in phase 2 studies for that blue line. You see that blue line that goes there basically from the port of Anchorage, ties into the rail system, the major roads into the port of Anchorage, and goes all the way out to the terminus to the Estelle Gold project. And so we plan to have that be coming online here in the 2023-2024 timeframe as well, which coincides with our decision to mine. In terms of power, you can see along that blue line, there's also a coal project there, the Canyon Creek coal lease. That's in feasibility study right now. That could be a potential power source for us. And also along the road alignment, being in the plans to supply Donlin out to the west with gas as a gas pipeline just 5 miles to the north of us. So we'll be able to potentially tap into that. We
are running out of time, Christopher.
Okay. So I'll just leave you with some photos of our camp and our facilities. We're very proud of this. This infrastructure will be able to allow us to operate year-round out there. So we're not stopping in the winter. We'll be drilling year-round at the camp. I'm not going to labor you with all of our management, but just myself. I'm an economic geologist. I'm from Alaska. I've worked in Nevada in some of the largest heap leach operations in the world, company makers for Newmont and Barrick. Also in Australia, the goldfields out there with some of the projects on in Laos. And so my forte is really bringing projects from the resource development phase into production, which is perfect for what we're trying to achieve here at Estelle.
Christopher Gerteisen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry, I'm giving you all 20 minutes, and there we go. Somebody from Nova Minerals will join us in the Zoom meeting room at the end of today. Christopher Gerteisen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Carrie.